Hi folks, how are you doing? Let us see what happened in the probably the most interesting game of this fourth round in the Gashimov Memorial. We saw Fabiano Caruana, a very strong GM from Italy with white pieces, playing the world champion Magnus Carlsen, who was black today. And I think it was really a very interesting game and a very instructive one. So let us see what happened here. Caruana plays e4, which is kind of a normal. e5. We have the Spanish opening and the Berlin defense, a very main move for Magnus Carlsen, who really plays lots of openings, but the Berlin and the Rui Lopez and mainly the Berlin is probably the main part of his repertoire against 1e4. And so we have the infamous Berlin endgame after these very well-known moves. Bishop takes, d takes, pawn takes, knight f5, and the queens are exchanged. And there we go. This is the position. The main reason why 1e4 isn't very popular with strong GMs anymore, since Kramnik rediscovered this opening to give Kasparov lots of headaches back on 2000 in that World Championship match in London, I think. So there it goes. Lots of plans, as you know, for white here, and really a complicated game. h3 was played here. I think the idea of this line, of this move, is to have an early kingside pawn storm by white, so playing g4, move the knight f4, etc. And well, black here plays h6. I think not, according to my database, at least not the most common move, but I guess it has something to do with stopping white's pawn storm on the king side, or making it less effective or something. Really, no, I'm not that sure, but I mean, my knowledge of the Berlin is extremely poor, as you can see. So there are still some moves with this h6, some games with this h6 move. So well, Caruana plays rook d1 check, and here there was a game last year played by Caruana himself as white against Ruslan Ponomaryov from Ukraine. It was played in the FIDE Grand Prix in Paris, and it was a draw. And well, apart from that, there are another 5 games with this move order in my database, played by Kamsky, for instance, Sutovsky or Volokitin as white. Here king plays back to e8 and knight c3. Now pretty normal moves here, even if we're in a Berlin defense. There is some logic here. Bishop d7, bishop f4, pieces get developed. Rook d8. And well, in that game I was mentioning Caruana Ponomaryov 2013 Paris. Caruana played the move e6, exchanging his e pawn for the c7 pawn of black. And here he deviates. He plays the move knight e4. And I guess this must be the multi, but really it isn't very important, I think. Now Carlsen plays bishop e7, and now after the g4 move, there is only one square available for the knight on f5, but it is enough as the bishop is guarding h4. So knight h4 is possible now, and Fabiano exchanged the knights on h4. Now king g2, the king goes to the second rank. I guess it's more near to the center, protects a little its pawns, and I think this is a typical Berlin position. If you just look at the development, you might think white is much better because he has a much better development and a better pawn structure. Certainly, black has a double c pawn, but even with that double c pawn and his really strange development, remember the black king has moved already twice, so he cannot castle. The rook on h8 hasn't castled. Will not be able to go through to the game through castling. So even with that, black still has the bishop pair, and it seems he's holding pretty well here in this position. As I said, it seems this is a pretty typical situation in the Berlin. It's strange, but more or less equal. Now black plays bishop e6, and here Caruana plays the very solid and sound f3 move. Well, now looking at this position, I was at the first part looking at the moves knight c5. My idea would be to try to maybe take on b7, although it doesn't look very correct even at the first spot, or even to exchange the bishop on e6 and make get rid of black's bishop pair. Although as you will see now, this is not this is not giving white so much of an advantage. At least it is not losing, which is not bad for a suggestion of mine. Let us see what could be black's responses. The engine says king e7 is the best move, and now if I take on e6, the king takes on e6, and I guess if anybody can be better here, it is black, because its king is better placed towards the board center. My bishop, the white bishop on f4 isn't really doing anything more than protecting the e5 pawn, which is in fact attacked. So this is at the very least very equal for black. So instead, of course, if here if I take on on b7, this is not really very great for white, as after rook takes, bishop d5 check, king say h2, rook b8 could be played, and if I go knight c5, rook takes on b2, and there are a bunch of very weak pawns on white side, the a2, c2, f2 pawns, and I guess I am playing white here. I am almost lost. And of course, after knight c5, the very basic trap would be if bishop rook takes, and black tries to win a pawn. Bishop takes a2, hooray, I trapped the bishop with b3. Of course, you're not expecting to see this in any game with players rated over 1800. So anyway, this was a possibility, a move I was thinking about, knight c5. Not a great move, not doing nothing really spectacular, but still we're in a Berlin game, so it may be possible. Okay, f3, much more sound and solid than my move. So b6, I guess it stops this knight c5 idea, and also has its idea of playing c5 and control the d4 square. Now white plays b3, and after c5, Caruana plays c4. Now each player earns the right to call his own one of these strong central pawns on the open d file. White controls firmly the d5 square, and black does the same, more or less the same with the d4 square. Now rook d7, bishop g3. This bishop isn't doing that much on f4, so Caruana tries to exchange it, and I guess the point would be that if Carlsen takes, knight takes, and his idea would be to play f4, f5, winning lots of space on the king side, maybe. So this may be slightly favorable for white. That's why Carlsen goes back with the bishop to e7, preserving his bishop pair. Now rooks are exchanged on the d file, bishop takes, and knight c3. The knight will, I guess, clearly go to d5, not b5, because it may be even exchanged there. But d5 seems a very reasonable square to go to. King d8, I guess the idea is to go with the king to the queen side. I know it looks strange, but in these Berlin games, this is, I think, really not that strange. I can more or less recall seeing this in the World Championship match. I think Carlsen played something very similar against Anand in Chennai. Tried something similar, I can more or less remember. So okay, the move I was thinking here for black was maybe c6 to prevent any knight d5. And here it is suggested to play rook d1. Of course, it's very natural. And I was thinking here about h5. Why not? Once again, I remember Carlsen playing these kind of moves in Berlin games, in the black side of Berlin, against Anand in Chennai in the World Championship match in 2013, October, November, so that the rook could be developed from its starting point without having even to move. Well, knight e4 is suggested here, and even after h takes, still, the rook cannot go to any square in the h file. But I guess this is not a great achievement for black, so I'm not reinventing chess, but still, I guess this is more or less playable position. But okay, king d8, it also has its idea, of course. Now knight d5 and rook e8 was played just to defend the bishop and make the king possible to go to c8. I mean, h5 was still possible here. If rook d1, h takes, now c6 maybe. Knight takes c7, king takes c7, and I think there is really little risk anybody at this super GM level will win this, either with white or black. Of course, white has more space, but this should be more or less equal, at least at this super elite level. But okay, after knight d5, rook e8 makes lots of sense as well. Now rook e8, rook e8, rook d1, and here we see, surprise, surprise, a mistake by Carlsen. Really very strange to see him more or less blunder like this, miss a tactical shot. He played king c8, and now Caruana takes on c7. Okay, let's take a quick look to what was the seemingly better alternative. It was to play c6, it seems. And after knight takes, rook takes, f4, king e8, it is recommended to play. And now it seems scary for black, bishop h4, because the bishop doesn't have many squares to go to, but the engine keeps calm, keeps cool, and plays g5. Because if f takes, h takes, and bishop takes happens, the rook can take on e5, and this is not a bad position for black. But okay, Carlsen played this king c8, missing the knight takes c7 move, and the point if this is, of course, if king takes c7, e6, discovered check would happen, and basically black is lost. Not only white is recovering his piece, but he is doing it with a strong, very strong attack, even if he has only 2 pieces in the board. Let's see. If king c8, now this is a fork, very basic one. 1-0, black can easily resign, and if king d8, now white takes with the rook, check, king c8, rook c7 check, the bishop is protecting c7, and 2 possibilities, both are pretty bad for black, but king d8 is, I guess, even worse. I mean, not the worst one, no, not the worst one probably, because after king d8, white just takes a rook. This is a big just, because it is still very winning. But if king b8, this is definitely much worse, because white takes with a discovered check, takes the bishop, and is going to take the last piece, and white has no more pieces to defend his poor king. And of course, after knight c7, the best move, it seems to be rook d8, and the knight goes back, knight d5, so white has been gifted a pawn, and there is some serious pressure on black. Pawn is a pawn, and in this case, this is an instrument. That pawn is an instrument of a long torture. I bet Carlsen would absolutely enjoy this as white, of course. Now rook is back on e8. Bishop goes to e1, looking to improve his piece. I mean, this is something I keep noticing on these strong players' games, when there is really nothing that else going on, nothing tactical. These strong GMs always look for improving their worst placed piece. In this case, it was the bishop, so it will be relocated to c3, to the big diagonal. Something to learn, and this is one of the reasons I say this game is pretty instructive. Now bishop d8, attacking the e5 pawn, so bishop c3, and g6. That pawn there, it is not x-rayed anymore with the bishop on c3. King g3, improving the king, and b5. Now Carlsen definitely tries to open up diagonal space for his bishop pair, as he needs really some kind of activity. He just cannot sit there and wait for these pawns to roll up against his pieces. C takes, bishop takes, and knight e3. Now rook e6 is played, f4, rook a6, pretty easy to understand this move, attacking the pawn, Caruana defends it. h5. G takes. G takes. Now white goes to knight f5, going towards the strong d6 square with the knight. And well, very instructive game, as I said, for amateur patzers like me, because you can understand on almost any move of this game, apart from the strange opening, of course. But the middle game is pretty much understandable, I think. Now rook g6 check, king h2, and now bishop c6. So definitely Carlsen has found something. He will try at least to combine the power of all his remaining pieces to attack white king, and he must do that because he has weaknesses. He's a pawn down. He's bound to lose another one. So you just cannot sit there and wait. He has to try to use his bishop pair. Now knight d6 check, king b8, and f5 by white. Let us see why wasn't it possible here for white to take on f7 right away. Because if white takes, bishop h4 would be played, threatening a check there, which would be really a dangerous one, at least to lose the advantage, as we will see. And here, after bishop h3, it seems the best for white is to give up one of the pawns he has won with knight g5, and after the exchange on g5, rook takes, this released black. There is an opposite color endgame ahead if the rooks are exchanged, so this is much better, much easier for black. Instead, if white keeps playing carelessly without paying attention to black's counterplay f5, for instance, now after rook g7, the knight is attacked, and if, for instance, knight d8, attacking the bishop, bishop g3 check, king g1, bishop h4 discovered check, king h2 should be a draw by repetition, because if white tries to escape the checks, he is going to even to lose the game, because there is bishop b5 check. Never underestimate the power of the bishop pair in an open position, and now white is forced to put the rook on e2, obviously losing the game as a result. And okay, that's why it was much better to play f5 here, forcing Carlsen's rook to go back to g8. For similar reasons, taking on f7 right now wasn't that great. Bishop h4 is still possible with very similar threats. So once again, taking there not that great. f6 is the absolutely best move here. Now the weak pawn, the weakness on f7 is fixed, and apart from that, the bishop on d8 cannot go to h4 anymore. So Carlsen immediately takes that bishop to other diagonal. You must always try to keep your pieces active. Bishop b6 is played here. Now it was possible, I guess, to take on f7, but Caruana just plays it safely. He knows he has this technically won, so he doesn't want to risk anything. Knight c4 just blocks that bishop. Now rook e8. Knight goes back to d6, and after rook g8, he takes on f7. I guess he calculated it better or something. He wins the second pawn, and well, it is pretty sure as well that after c4, black definitely has a counterplay against white king. I mean, objectively speaking, this is one for white, but you can never be careless in this position. I mean, both bishops are aiming at your king, which is really stuck here on h2 without anywhere to move. The rook is absolutely cutting this up, so in fact, black is threatening checkmate in one, so you cannot just go carelessly for e6 saying, hey, I'm going to promote that pawn because black says checkmate, game over. So probably this is the checkmate white must be avoiding, so probably h4 is an only move here to give this h3 square to the king, and this is saving white from being checkmated, and it is keeping his winning advantage. Now rook g4 is attacking the pawn on h4, but in fact it isn't really a threatening match. So now Caruana can go to e6 if rook takes. h4 check. I mean, king g3. There aren't any more checks. The rook is under attack, so this wasn't leading too much. So after e6, Carlsen played bishop e3, attacking the rook. Now check, bishop e5, king a8. Here, rook d8 check was played. Funny enough, very funny, I would say. During the live transmission, during the live stream of the game, for just a second, the rook d6 move appeared on the board as it was played, and I just was flipping here. I mean, I was just shocked because this was allowing a check in 2 with bishop g1 check and bishop g2, and I mean, I wasn't the only one. Peter Swidler in the live stream there was like shocked. He said he was just about to scream goal, because I mean, obviously this would be probably the biggest blunder in a GM event in the history. But of course, Caruana didn't play this. This was just a mistake, I guess. I guess the board thought that he let the rook on d6, but of course he put it on d8 with a check. Now after king b7, he just played bishop g3. There are lots of moves here to keep the advantage, but he plays bishop g3, just cementing everything. He's at 2 pawns up with lots of with a huge threat of these connected pass pawns already on 6. So there is no way White is going to lose this at this level. c3 was played. Now rook b8 check, very simple, and after king a6, pretty understandable, pretty easy to understand. I mean, rook c8 attacks the bishop, attacks the c3 pawn, x-raying. So after bishop d5, the rook just takes a third pawn. Bishop d4 attacks the rook, but bishop d3, rook e4, rook d2 does not allow even a check on e2, and after rook is taking e6, White just plays knight g5, attacking the rook, and well, Magnus Carlsen resigned. Black will lose one of his bishop. Both of them are attacked here on the d file, and while Black just cannot go to e4 to defend it because the knight is guarding that square. So game over. There it goes. Magnus Carlsen is human. He can lose as well, as we saw today. And funny enough, the last game he lost in classical chess was once again against Fabiano Caruana last year. Not remembering right now in which tournament, but I think it was Caruana who beat him for the last time in classical chess. Remember, he lost in February. I think it was in Zurich in a rapid game against Aronian, but today the world champion lost the game with black pieces with Fabiano Caruana. Let's see what the remaining rounds have for us. And thanks for watching.